for coming in. You're the Chief Supervisor for the qualification in Sport and Exercise Psychology. So what I'd like to ask you about is the process for becoming a qualified and registered sports psychologist. Now, I believe it used to be the case that anyone could call themselves a psychologist, but not anymore.
Yeah, that's the case really since the Health Professions Council has come on board.
Right.
So in essence now they regulate psychology as a profession, and that includes sport and exercise psychology for us.
Right. Why have they been brought in?
I think ultimately it's about protection of the public, it's about quality assurance, and it's about the Health Professions Council knowing that anybody who's on the register as a sports psychologist or a sport and exercise psychologist is practicing ethically, is diligent in the way they work, and is quality assured by going through the professional training route that's in place.
Okay, so to practice legitimately, you need to be a registered sport and exercise psychologist with the HPC.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, how do you get there? How do you get to be?
There's three stages really. I mean, if you're on the register, that means that you're going to have undertaken a training process. So you'll have spent at least 2 years under supervision as a trainee sport and exercise psychologist, and that trainee is supervised by a sports psychologist who's already on the HPC register.
Right.
So that assures the training of the candidate.
Right.
That, as I said, will take a minimum of 2 years. It can take longer.
Right.
And if a candidate's going to get on that training qualification, they have to have done an MSc in sport and exercise psychology. And
BPS accredited MSc?
Yeah, the MSc is BPS accredited. We have a number of programs now that are accredited by the BPS, and that ensures that that particular program of study that student has done meets the criteria that the BPS wish to put in place for its own MSc programs in sport and exercise psychology.
Okay, and to get onto an MSc in sport and exercise psychology, what do you need to have?
Well, undergraduate students need to do an undergraduate degree in psychology or sport and exercise psychology, but that undergraduate degree has to carry the graduate basis for certified membership of the society, and that's critical. That's really the thing that opens the door to the training route. So essentially, if a student doesn't do that, then they're not eligible for entry onto an accredited MSc program.
All right. And I think most psychology degrees in the country do have this GBC, graduate basis for chartership. Is that right?
Most psychology degrees do, whether it's a mainstream psychology degree or a domain-specific one for sport and exercise.
Right.
They carry that very important GBC component.
All right. So just chronologically, you start by getting yourself a psychology degree.
Then you would do an MSc in a BPS accredited MSc in sport and exercise psychology, and if you successfully complete that, you would then do 2 years minimum supervised practice as a trainee sports and exercise psychologist.
All right, so the theory comes in the first 3-4 years, and then it's more applied in the supervised experience stage?
Yeah, in essence, the first 3 years of an undergraduate degree give you the theoretical knowledge base. The master's degree gives you again a knowledge base, but specifically in sport and exercise psychology. And then that knowledge base is really used in stage 2 to allow a candidate to go out and practice and consult, disseminate, educate, whatever role they're performing.
You talk about stage 2, if I could just clarify. Stage 1 is the...
Stage 1 is the MSc program, and stage 2 is the supervised practice element.
Okay. So in total, how long minimum to be a registered, HPC registered sport and exercise psychologist?
In essence, it's a 6-year training program. Minimum 3 years undergrad, 1 year MSc, 2 years supervised practice. Can be longer if the candidate decides that they want to train over a longer period of time, but 6 years minimum.
Okay, that's great. So it's not short, is it? But at least we're fairly sure that people by the end of that process are safe to put out in with the public.
That's it. I think the process we've got in place isn't short, but it's necessary. It's rigorous. It ensures that you've got somebody potentially on the HPC register who has the required knowledge base, the required skill set to be a very effective sports psychologist.
And so if somebody wants to employ or make use of a sports psychologist, they should check what?
ultimately the HPC register.
Right.
You know, it's appropriate for people who are employing sports psychologists or sport and exercise psychologists to get somebody who's HPC registered. If they're not, technically they're not working as a sport and exercise psychologist. So it's
and
very
it's
critical.
actually illegal for people to call themselves a sport or exercise psychologist.
Yep.
Unless they're on the HPC register.
It is. The HPC has its own protected terms, and sport and exercise psychology, or any derivative of that term, is protected, as are the terms practitioner psychologist or registered psychologist. Right. They're protected terms, so you can only use those terms if you're on the register.
And I suppose it's a bit like, you know, you want a register of builders so that you know that the person fixing your roof it's not going to fall in the next 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyone who's on the register, the employer or the client knows that person's been through the professional training route that I've described, so that quality assures it, and it avoids the problematic scenarios that we sometimes face where people are working out there without having gone through that route using titles that are protected, and that's not very helpful to the profession as a whole.
The deadline really is this summer, isn't it?
It is this summer. Essentially, the HPC has a cut-off date for people who can potentially become HPC registered through what we call a grandparenting system. But after that point in time, anybody who's not on the register at that point, the only way to get on that register is to go through the professional training route, the minimum 6-year training route. Okay. And it's also important that if we have got people out there who are professional to work under the title of sport and exercise psychologist, or they're delivering sport and exercise psychology services but using a slightly different title, that even that legally is really abusing what the HPC are trying to do in terms of their approval.
Okay. Well, thanks, Martin. That's clarified. I know it is a complex issue, but hopefully that's now clarified for people what they need to do if they want to be a legal sport and exercise psychologist.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.